Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be invited to speak to you here about something that lies so close to my heart. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to contribute to save the world, and I still do. I just didn't really know how to do that as an architect. It seemed to be two completely different things. But then, a couple of years ago, it became clear that, okay, so what can I do with cities, with buildings, and how does that link to somehow contributing to creating a better planet? And I hope that after this presentation, you'll understand a little bit more how these are connected and maybe how you could contribute as a citizen, as an expert in doing so. So I'm going to talk to you about smart, sustainable cities. And if you've heard about smart cities, you're probably going to think, oh yes, that's about data and technology, and it's about how to control things, how to make things more effective, efficient. But what I want to talk to you about here is the role of people. So how do we create smart, sustainable cities, but for, by, and with people? Not for, by, and with data, not for, by, and with technology, but people at the center. Hopefully, I hope to one day be able to achieve that. So how, through making better cities, we can actually contribute to save the world, as one of many contributions, of course. A couple of years ago, 2013, we were in Shanghai. We had a summer course on energy in cities, and a little bit, inadvertently, we happened to be in an actual live case of what can go wrong. So it was a heat wave, more than 3 weeks, more than 40 degrees. It didn't get fresher during the night. Temperature was just building up. There was lots of air conditioning, lots of ventilation going on, but it couldn't reduce the temperature. Every day in the paper, how many more people are dying, especially elderly, sick, because of the high temperatures. You walk around in the city, it's just hard surfaces reflecting everything. There's no relief, there were very few trees, there was no shading. So you just see how, yes, the temperatures are high, but the city is making it so much worse. And that is, of course, because the buildings were created, they were created maybe by architects who wanted to make a nice building, or by real estate developers who wanted to create a building that gives the most profit for value. But then you had engineers that had come in afterwards and that had put the ventilation systems and the cooling system, etc., on top to somehow mitigate that temperature, but they didn't work together. So basically, those mechanical systems alone could not reduce the temperature. And the building, the city, the neighborhood was just designed in the wrong way to be able to deal with that temperature. So then you see how, if you have designers, architects, engineers, local citizens with a good knowledge of local context, how they work together, you could create much better cities, and cities that are able to handle these kinds of challenges. Because, of course, we're going to get more and more of these challenges in the future. So what are then smart cities? I think we can agree this is a city. Is it also a smart city? Well, you wouldn't see from the picture. I drew some, nodes and lines, etc., on top of it. Those are usually the pictures you would see if someone wants to tell you that this is a smart city. It's a city where everything is connected, you have smart data, you have systems talking to each other. But of course, you don't really see that in the picture of the city. So the question is, you as a citizen, living, working in the city, using the city, would you notice that, your surroundings are smart, that they are somehow helping you, that they make you feel safe, that they make you feel comfortable, that they make you feel like you belong in your neighborhood, that you can go about your daily business, that the city somehow supports everything you do, and hopefully in a sustainable manner. And that is, of course, the challenge here. So a next one is then, as you can see also here, it's not about creating a new city and then just making everything fit. Architects have wanted to do that for more than 100 years. We've had some terrible cities because of it. But so the question is here, we have some wonderful cities that have lasted for several hundred years, that have grown, that are organic. How do we make sure that those cities can become sustainable and that they can become smart and help their citizens, the people living, working, and using them to just, achieve more in their daily life? And I'm showing you these pictures because, on the left-hand side, you would see something that is usually then also characterized as what a smart city could be. You have the shiny new towers, you have the shiny park, if green can be shiny. So, everything's very nicely designed, and then it's made effective, each with its own use. And the thing is, of course, then if you look at the second picture, so if you just take a step back, you're not, looking at an aerial picture of those nice skyscrapers, but you're taking a step back and you're actually in the old city, or you're on a rooftop of that city that has grown over many years, that is messy, that, has patches, that's been upgraded, that's been changed so many times, but that is the part where people like to live, where people feel home. The picture on the right is the same. So yes, it is not the fancy park with its nice design, especially if you look at it from the sky, but it is something that helps people in their daily lives. Maybe growing some local vegetables, not having to travel that much, etc. So how do we make sure that when we're talking about smart cities, so using all of those new data, those new technologies that are available, how can we make sure that we still are also catering for the type of people, the type of surroundings that you see on the right and in the middle? Because, of course, what also happens quite often is that cities when they get upgraded, they also get gentrified. The existing people, the people who used to live here, they have to move out, voluntarily or no, and then they're displaced with more middle-class, high-class people who can afford to live in the environments on the left. So how do we make sure that everyone has those smart, sustainable technologies, data, solution, processes available without pushing them out? This is basically what my team and I are working on. So at NTNU, we have a whole group of people, architects, planners, designers, social scientists, artists, economists, legal experts, engineers. I'm sure I forgot a couple, sorry about that. So a lot of people together who are trying to see then how we can create these cities, how we can mix the physical, the social, the economic, the legal, innovation, spatial, cultural, all of these elements together in that one city, in that one physical city. How do you mix all of these? So we've talked to a lot of people, we've done interviews, we've looked at environments, we've visited a lot of cities, talked to local decision makers, to local citizens, and then you see, so those are some of the words that tend to come up. What people expect from a city, and especially from a smart city, is that the city is enabling and empowering, making something possible, supporting, that they are able to co-create, so that they are able to be part of creating that better city, that the city makes them feel well, that it provides them with everything they need, that it's transparent, that you know why something is happening and how it's being done, how your money is being used, that there's a good quality, there's a good balance. All of these things come up. And those are very different from, energy efficient, resource efficient, etc. So the question is, how do we combine these with those sustainability, so economically feasible, cost-efficient, resource-efficient, energy-efficient, those kinds of demands that we need. The idea then of this team, of our team, is to see if we can put all of those ideas and demands into one project at a time. So not just one word or one idea, but to try to create projects where everything has to come together, which is also why we need all of those disciplines together to work on this. We haven't managed that yet, but we do have projects that are actually combining quite a lot of those aspects. One of those is Positive City Exchange. Those of you who live in Trondheim will probably have heard quite a lot of it already. It is a European-funded project. We received 20 million euros from the European Commission. We work with 7 cities, 23 industry partners, 2 universities, and basically to create demonstration projects to show how you can create smart, positive energy districts. So basically neighborhoods that generate more energy than they consume. And this one, you're not supposed to read it in detail, it's just to show a little bit of the complexity in it. So because you need, basically everything needs to come together as energy and ICT and transport and water and waste and citizen participation and services, business models, the infrastructure, so everything somehow needs to come together into that one physical city. And so imagine in Trondheim, we are working on actually close by here, so Brattøra. We are working Sluppen, more in the south of Trondheim, and then the new campus area for NTNU. Those are, let's say, more business-oriented areas. We're also working together with the city of Limerick in Ireland, where they're going to be upgrading a Georgian district. So it's really about taking those areas of the city that already exist and then transforming them into something smarter, better energy balance, better for citizens, etc., etc. And we're trying that with a variety of districts in a variety of countries, and hopefully then that can also be a model for European cities and districts in the future. And actually, if you see how to combine all of these things together into one city, it's clear that you need a lot of people involved. So what those projects are about is basically bringing people together, getting them to discuss, getting them to share what is it they know, what is their experience, what are they going to do for the next years, and then see how we can match that with the others. And we are lucky enough to have all these industry partners, all of these cities and universities on board that want to share, that want to spend time meeting with each other, discussing new ideas, disagreeing on what is the best idea, and then actually testing something in practice. And that kind of interaction is what most of our projects are about, because you can't sit at a desk and calculate or read or write or model your way to those good solutions. You need people to meet. Another project is then more about resilience. So it doesn't help to have all of these smart systems and infrastructures if basically, a tree falls down, the power net is out, and your systems don't work anymore. So as I already mentioned in the beginning, it's very important that that physical city, that social city, all of those economic models, that they are actually working really well, also without the smart systems connected to them. So how do you make sure that your city works well, and then how do you integrate it with those digital opportunities to work even better? So in this project, which also was funded by the European Commission, we worked together with 8 cities, 4 cities in Europe and 4 cities outside of Europe, to test these ideas. Another project closer to home, where we work with Bergen and Oslo municipalities, is to see then, it's not just about the physical solutions, it's about the decision-making processes that the politicians, administrations in municipalities need to take in order to create those good, sustainable, smart energy communities. So what my team did, together with others of course, is to work with decision makers in municipalities, with real estate developers, with other project developers, and then to see what are the challenges, what are the barriers, and how can we then design a better process, a better way of working based on this. And that has been tested then in 2 cities in Norway, and we're now looking at how to, we're working with other municipalities to see if this can be transferred elsewhere as well. We're not just working in Norway and Europe, we work quite a lot with China as well. This year we organized the first Nordic Edge China, so basically looking at what are those good Norwegian and Nordic solutions and processes. Can they be transferred to China, or are they really just based on Nordic conditions? For example, do we have so much money? Do we have such good infrastructures? Do we have such robust decision-making processes that basically what we do cannot be transferred elsewhere? Or is it actually possible to do so, and what can we learn from others? So we've been working with China for quite some years now, more than 10 years, and this was then the first time where we large-scale tried to set up such an interaction. And the nice thing was we were there, we had counted with like 250 Chinese participants. We had more than 600 people who wanted to join. So next year, it will be bigger. If you want to join us, if you have good solutions you would like to share at such an event, you're more than welcome to do so. One of the things we work with in China is, for example, industry parks. You have loads of areas that look like this. They are basically buildings with streets in between and a little bit of green, maybe some water. But it's not, it's an area with buildings and streets, so it's not really a city. So people don't really want to live there. They just come there to work and then they commute 2 hours back. So how can we make that more of a city? Completely different surroundings, urban regeneration. So you have loads of old areas. They they've been industry, they have been housing, but just never with good design or good infrastructure. They may have been colonial areas. And how do you upgrade this to current use without destroying it, which often has been the practice? We are working with specific areas, but we're also then trying to integrate all of this into recommendations for the European Commission and the Chinese Ministry. And we're also helping cities from Norway and Europe to work together. Norway, Europe, and China, of course, to work together on solving some of these and on helping each other. Basically, so as I already said, we have loads of different projects with bits and pieces. What we're trying to do now is to really get everything together with everything we know, everything our partners know. How do we then create those climate neutral, smart, people-centered cities of the future? And we can't do that, by 2050. We have maybe 10 years to actually start to test this and to prove what can be possible. We're doing that with European partners, Chinese partners, India, other countries in the world. And the nice thing is to see then that some solutions work in different places in the world. Maybe the actual physical solutions are different, but the processes, the problems, the decision-making is actually fairly similar. And that is then where my final slide. Basically what we've seen, in order to create these cities, these people-centered, climate-neutral, smart cities that we're going to need in the future, basically I need the whole of NTNU, all of those disciplines, all of those sectors, all of those people that are educated and doing research there. So if all of those could work together on creating those climate neutral, smart, people-centered cities, we would be getting much further, much faster. So I hope that our rector, Gunnar Bovim, is listening, and that this gets a big push after this. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you got inspired. I hope that you, as an expert and a citizen, would like to contribute. If so, please contact me, and we'll find a way to do so. Thank you.